It's day 453. It's also August 1st, 2020. And we are in Wolf Point, Montana.
You ever wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what am I doing? And more importantly, why? Yeah, me too. Hi, my name is Craig, and this is my story. A story about life out there. For visuals while listening, search Life Out There on your favorite social media platform or use the links in the podcast description.
Leaving Whitlash, trekking back down out of those Sweetgrass Mountains. A couple of hours later, we were back on the blacktop and headed east. And we covered some ground today. With just over 300 miles in the rear view, and the North Dakota border drawing near, we were on the lookout for a spot to pull off for some dinner and some shut-eye. As dusk approached, the perfect spot would come up in a place called Wolf Point, Montana. A small city park-like area, just off to the left of the main road. And an inviting tree-shaded pullout. A great place to spend the rest of the evening. Now, we had no idea when we pulled into town that we had entered the Fort Peck Indian Reservation, and Wolf Point is the largest community on the reservation, with a population of just over 2,000. And yet, another small town, with a ton of history. The footprints of Lewis and Clark are all over this place. Their first trek through the area would be in May of 1805. And the Fort Peck Indian Reservation, located here in northeastern Montana along the Missouri River, no surprise, I guess, comes with a deep history of its own. It's home to the Fort Peck Assiniboine and Sioux tribes. It includes several other bands of these Native American people, the Canoe Paddler and Red Bottom bands, the Sisseton, Wahpeton, Yankatanai, and Teton Hungapapa. The reservation was officially established in 1888. The Fort Peck Indian Agency was relocated to its current location in Poplar, Montana in 1878 because of flooding issues. And this reservation played a role in the Great Sioux War of the 1860s and 70s. The Battle of Little Bighorn that we'd read about way back there in Wyoming last year. It took place in 1876 and was a significant event during this period, affecting the Native Americans up here in this part of the state as well. And I'd learned that after the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Sitting Bull and his followers sought refuge in the Redwater country, which is part of the Fort Peck area, and was reminded that he would eventually surrender in 1881. I'd also learned that, like so many others, this reservation maintains its history of bison hunts, which originally were crucial for the tribe's survival. But in today's world, the annual activity is more about retaining the Native American culture and careful management of the reservation's bison population. And here I am again, staring out over these rolling hills adorned with wind turbine farms, silently generating power, and dotted here and there with the modern-day working ranches. But picturing a time when those bison roamed these plains. No wind turbines, no ranches, no fences. Just Native Americans on horseback scouting, tracking, and hunting those bison. Surviving. Just living here. And some pretty remarkable work has been put together on what this life was like. And these people.
I hadn't been home to the res in several years, and I knew it was time, and that this time would be different. I wanted to meet with Robert Forstar, the chief of my tribe. I know there are stories that need to be told so that the old ways are not lost and forgotten. When we arrived in Wolf Point, he looked at me and said, "I knew you were coming. These are stories from some of the people back home. And there are more stories than these, for sure.
Because these Assiniboine people don't share who they are and where they came from and our culture with people. People believe whatever it is they read and what they hear.
What traditions do you think are most misunderstood?
All of them. Every one of them. My name is Robert Forstar. That's the English name I go by. The last name Forstar came from my great-great-grandfather. He was the first Forstar. He was a man of the roots, which all the Red Bottom people are. The word, we are Haudenosaunee. Haudenosaunee means red root people. Haudenosaunee means the people who deal with the red roots. That's who we are.
My dad had a lot more teachers than I do today. We've lost a lot of elders here and a lot of ceremonies. And how we live today isn't how we used to live back in the day.
I was struck when Chief Forstar said, I don't have the same number of people to learn from that my great-grandfather did. And all of a sudden I felt like the very same thing is happening to all of us. Just a generation or so ago, my grandfather, in unison with my parents, would teach us the difference between right and wrong. And I wondered, who's telling today's youth the difference between right and wrong? I mean, looking around at the world, we live in a world where anyone can go online and say anything, true or not. And more often than not, no one challenges them. It's as if we've accepted it as a new normal. And today, the reality is that we live in a country where the President of the United States has a well-documented habit of, well, let's say bending the truth. Sometimes outright making things up. And yet, as a nation, we placed him in the highest office in the land. I think that alone is worth reflecting on. How did we get here? Even the mainstream media, once seen as the watchdogs of democracy, they seem to have shifted their priorities. The pursuit of truth appears to have taken a back seat to the pursuit of profit. Instead of holding power accountable, they report on the spectacle, cashing in on the outrage, the chaos, the clicks. When did it all happen? And more than politics, more than policies, shouldn't we first and foremost see ourselves as Americans? Disagree, debate, argue even, but then move forward together. That's what democracy was supposed to be all about. And yet, it feels like something is changing. Maybe it already has. Sometimes I don't even know how to talk about these things anymore. It's like the moment somebody finds out I didn't vote for him, and they did, well, I'm instantly cast as the other, the enemy. Truth is, I think I do it too. When did we stop seeing each other as people first? Now here we are, headed into another election. Man, I hope this chapter of chaos comes to an end. But I also know half the country sees it completely differently. And once again, we're at a place where we can't seem to talk about it. If you ask me, that's the saddest part of all. Guess we'll see what happens. But back to Wolf Point. Within all that history, it's also famous for hosting the Wild Horse Stampede each year during the second weekend of July. A rodeo first established and held in 1915 and remains the oldest in the state. Around here, the annual event is referred to as the granddaddy of Montana rodeos. Sounds like a weekend event packed full of fun stuff, parades, an actual wild horse race, traditional Native American dances, street dances, all mixed in with carnival-like games, rides, and attractions, and tons of food, including a decades-old tradition called Catholic burgers, a unique stampede tradition in which the town's local parishes serve up burgers throughout the event. And of course, world-class steer roping, bronc riding, and many other pro-rodeo events. Sounds pretty dang cool. I was kind of bummed that we'd missed it by just a couple weeks. And it was also cool to learn that the event took place this year, in spite of the pandemic. The community added some safety measures, but for me, it was just another example of life out here, in rural Montana. Pretty awesome that they did not let a pandemic interrupt the community's 99-year-old tradition. Things were pretty quiet as we rolled through. Almost hard to believe that just a couple weeks prior, we'd have been visiting the town right along with around 15,000 other adventure seekers. Next time we'll plan better. In reading a bit more about the town, it really is all about the reservation around here. The reservation itself encompasses numerous historical sites, including teepee rings, buffalo jumps, and several other sacred locations. As Dougie and I walked the quiet streets, and the sun dipped below the horizon, it cast a golden hue over the town, while the Missouri River, that river that played a pivotal role in the town's early days as a trading post, flowed by silently. In the late 19th century, the Great Northern Railway's arrival in 1887 spurred further development and cemented Wolf Point's status as a key community in the region. And returning to the park from our last walk of the evening, under that big sky full of stars, we settled in for the night, enjoying the quiet of yet one more small town, this one in the Great Plains of eastern Montana. Later that evening, around 10 p.m., so quiet. The TV was off, the laptop closed. Boys and I were likely dozing off. And all of a sudden, it wasn't so quiet. The rumble of pickups rolling onto the lot. A couple of teenagers hopped out, dropped the tailgates of their trucks, and engaged in lively banter. And before long, more cars had joined the scene. And it became clear that we had unwittingly chosen the local meetup spot to get ourselves some shut-eye. And listening to their animated conversations, it was quickly evident that these friends had spent a Saturday full of adventures on the Missouri River, inner tubing, fishing, and swimming. It felt like pure Americana, a snapshot of rural life that seemed almost nostalgic. There wasn't a cell phone in sight. These teens preferred the company of each other over screens, embracing a day of real-world fun over video games with internet friends. And the scene took an interesting turn when the sheriff rolled up a few minutes later. Everyone greeted him by name as he asked, "Shouldn't you all be headed home soon?" They agreed, promised they'd leave shortly. And he fist-bumped a few as he headed out himself, adding, "Y'all get home safe, hear?" And one by one, car doors slammed as the teenagers packed up for the night and rolled out. As I watched the last set of taillights fade into the darkness, I couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth, nostalgia. It reminded me of my own teenage years in Gilroy and North Branch, long before the internet and cell phones. Afternoons at the lake, or days of horseback riding that would end at the Frosty Freeze, Fling's Pizza, or even the roller skating rink. We found mischief here and there, but always with friends, never alone. And last night in Wolf Point, I saw the same camaraderie and joy, but in a very different time. It felt like those young adventurers had found a way to meld the past with the present, enjoying real-life experiences over digital distractions. It was good. It was nice to watch. We were up early this morning, taking our first walk and having coffee and breakfast, ready to hit the road by 7 a.m. As we pulled out onto the highway continuing east, I pondered how we were putting yet another small town in the rear view, but yet, at the same time, taking a piece of its charm, history, and personality with us. Map says we still got 500 miles or so in front of us till we hit Fargo. As the sun rose in our windshield, I wondered what the next sign would read. The one that would tug at us, compel us to leave the asphalt again. And I wonder what we'll learn there.
Turns out, this thing called life comes with a lot of rules. Maybe it's time to break a few. Because you can. No, seriously. You can.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.